The academic smart person. Most people grow up believing this is what intelligence looks like. The student who always gets the highest grades. The person who remembers every formula, every date, every definition, and somehow finishes the exam before everyone else. Entire education systems are built around identifying and rewarding this type of intelligence, which is why academically smart people often receive recognition very early in life. Teachers praise them. Parents become proud of them. Classmates ask them for help. Over time, intelligence becomes strongly connected to achievement. The academically smart person learns how to absorb information quickly, organize it efficiently, and retrieve it when needed. What makes this type fascinating is that their intelligence thrives in structured environments. Give them a textbook, a syllabus, a clear objective, and enough time, and they will often outperform almost everyone around them. Their brains become incredibly efficient at understanding systems. They know how to study, how to memorize, and how to master complex topics. This is why many doctors, scientists, engineers, researchers, and scholars belong to this category. The modern world would not function without people who can process enormous amounts of information accurately. But something interesting happens when school ends. Real life rarely provides answer sheets. Relationships don't come with instructions. Businesses don't have multiple choice questions. Most important life decisions involve uncertainty rather than certainty. Suddenly, the skills that created success in school don't automatically guarantee success everywhere else. Some academically intelligent people adapt quickly. Others struggle because they spent years operating inside systems where the correct answer already existed somewhere. This creates one of the biggest misconceptions about intelligence. People often assume that the person with the highest grades must automatically be the smartest person in every situation. But intelligence is much broader than academic performance. The academically smart person possesses an incredibly valuable ability, but it is only one piece of a much larger puzzle. Their strength lies in knowledge, understanding, and intellectual discipline. The danger comes when society mistakes that strength for the entire definition of intelligence itself. The street smart person. If the academically smart person understands systems, the street smart person understands reality. This is the individual who may never have topped a class, but somehow always knows what's actually happening around them. They can walk into a room and instantly sense who can be trusted, who cannot, where the risks are, and what people are really trying to accomplish. Their intelligence comes less from books and more from experience. Street smart people develop their intelligence through observation, mistakes, adaptation, and survival. Life becomes their teacher. Every difficult situation becomes a lesson. They learn how people behave when they're desperate, selfish, ambitious, dishonest, or afraid. Over time, they develop an understanding of human nature that can't easily be taught in a classroom. One reason street smart people often succeed is because they understand incentives. They know that people rarely do things for the reasons they publicly claim. They understand that actions reveal far more than words. While others focus on what someone says, the street smart person focuses on what someone actually does. That difference allows them to avoid manipulation, recognize opportunities, and navigate complicated situations more effectively. Many successful entrepreneurs, negotiators, salespeople, and leaders possess strong street intelligence. They understand how the world operates beyond theory. They know how to handle uncertainty. They know how to recover when plans fail. Most importantly, they understand that reality rarely follows perfect rules. This type of intelligence often gets underestimated because it doesn't always look intellectual from the outside. There may be no impressive degrees or academic achievements attached to it. Yet when real problems appear, the street smart person often becomes the calmest person in the room because they've learned how to operate when things stop going according to plan. The social smart person. Some people understand people the way engineers understand machines. They can walk into a room and immediately sense the atmosphere. They know who feels uncomfortable, who wants attention, who is hiding frustration, and who secretly controls the group. This is social intelligence, and it is one of the most powerful forms of intelligence humans can possess. The socially smart person understands something many people overlook. Human beings are emotional creatures long before they are logical creatures. Most decisions are influenced by feelings, relationships, trust, status, and perception. Socially intelligent individuals recognize this instinctively. They know how to communicate in ways that make people feel understood. They know when to speak and when to remain silent. They know how to disagree without creating unnecessary conflict. This is why socially intelligent people often become leaders without actively seeking leadership. People naturally enjoy being around them because interactions feel easier. They know how to make others feel respected. They understand group dynamics. They can manage difficult conversations. They can build connections between people who otherwise might never get along. What's interesting is that social intelligence is often invisible. Academic achievements can be measured. Financial success can be counted. Social intelligence is harder to quantify, yet it affects nearly every area of life. Careers depend on it. Relationships depend on it. Friendships depend on it. Even opportunities often depend on it. Many people assume intelligence means knowing things. The socially smart person proves that intelligence can also mean understanding people. And in a world where nearly every opportunity eventually involves human interaction, that ability becomes incredibly valuable. The emotionally smart person. There is a huge difference between having emotions and understanding emotions. The emotionally smart person understands them, not just other people's emotions, but their own as well. They know when they're angry, jealous, insecure, afraid, embarrassed, or overwhelmed. More importantly, they usually know why. Most people spend large parts of their lives reacting emotionally without fully understanding what is happening inside them. They become angry and blame other people. They become jealous and call it fairness. They become insecure and disguise it as confidence. Emotional intelligence allows a person to recognize these patterns before they take control. This type of intelligence creates enormous advantages in relationships. Emotionally smart people are often better at resolving conflict because they can identify the real issue beneath the argument. They understand that people frequently communicate emotions indirectly. A complaint might actually be fear. Anger might actually be disappointment. Withdrawal might actually be hurt. Emotionally intelligent people also tend to grow faster because they can examine themselves honestly. Instead of assuming every problem is caused by the outside world, they look inward as well. That self-awareness allows them to improve in ways that many people never do. Perhaps the greatest strength of emotional intelligence is stability. Life constantly creates emotional challenges. Rejection, failure, embarrassment, conflict, uncertainty, and loss are unavoidable parts of being human. The emotionally smart person doesn't avoid these experiences. They simply understand how to navigate them more effectively. And in many ways, that ability may be more important than raw intellectual power. Because intelligence can help you solve problems. Emotional intelligence helps you survive yourself. The creative smart person. Some of the smartest people in history would have looked strange inside a traditional classroom. Their minds weren't designed primarily to memorize existing information. Their minds were designed to create new information. This is creative intelligence. The creative smart person sees possibilities where other people see limitations. They connect ideas that appear unrelated. They imagine solutions nobody else considers. Their intelligence operates less like a filing cabinet and more like a laboratory. Ideas constantly collide, combine, and evolve inside their minds. Creativity is often misunderstood because it looks effortless from the outside. People see a great invention, a brilliant design, a successful business idea, a powerful story, or an innovative solution and assume it appeared magically. What they don't see is the mental process behind it. Creative intelligence requires pattern recognition, experimentation, curiosity, and an unusual willingness to think differently. This type of intelligence is responsible for many of humanity's biggest breakthroughs. Every invention began as an idea that didn't previously exist. Every company started as a possibility. Every work of art began as imagination. Creative thinkers expand reality by imagining alternatives. One challenge creative people face is that their intelligence doesn't always fit neatly into traditional systems. Schools often reward correct answers. Creative minds are frequently more interested in asking new questions. They may appear distracted, unconventional, or inconsistent because their attention naturally moves toward possibilities rather than routines. Yet the world depends on them. Without creative intelligence, humanity would simply repeat the same solutions forever. Progress itself often begins with someone imagining something that nobody else can yet see. The strategic smart person. Some people focus on what is happening right now. Strategic people focus on what will happen next. Their minds naturally move forward. Every decision becomes part of a larger chain of consequences. Every action creates future outcomes. Every opportunity contains future risks. The strategic smart person constantly thinks several steps ahead. This doesn't mean they can predict the future perfectly. Nobody can. What they can do is identify probabilities, patterns, and likely outcomes better than most people. This ability appears everywhere. Great business leaders use it. Military commanders use it. Investors use it. Politicians use it. Chess players use it. Strategic intelligence is essentially the ability to see beyond the present moment. Most people think primarily in terms of immediate rewards. Strategic thinkers understand delayed consequences. They recognize that today's shortcut may create tomorrow's problem. They understand that short-term sacrifices can produce long-term advantages. While others focus on immediate comfort, strategic thinkers often focus on positioning. This type of intelligence becomes especially powerful because most people are surprisingly reactive. They wait for problems to appear before addressing them. Strategic individuals often identify those problems long before they arrive. As a result, their decisions can appear almost magical from the outside. People assume they're lucky when, in reality, they simply saw the situation developing earlier than everyone else. The strategic smart person understands something fundamental about life. The future is shaped long before it arrives. And those who learn to think ahead often gain advantages that appear invisible to everyone else. The curious smart person. Some people become intelligent because they were born with certain abilities. Others become intelligent because they simply never stop asking questions. The curious smart person belongs to the second group. They are fascinated by how things work. They don't just want answers. They want understanding. While most people accept information and move on, the curious person immediately asks another question, then another, then another. Their intelligence grows because curiosity continuously pulls them toward new knowledge. What's interesting about curiosity is that it compounds over time. One question leads to a book. The book leads to a topic. The topic leads to another subject entirely. Years later, the curious person ends up with knowledge from dozens of different areas. Because they followed their interests wherever they led. They might know about psychology, history, technology, biology, business, and astronomy all at the same time simply because they genuinely wanted to know more. This type of intelligence often creates surprisingly successful people because curiosity makes learning enjoyable rather than painful. Most people stop learning once school ends. Curious people never really stop. They keep exploring. They keep experimenting. They keep discovering new perspectives. And over decades, that difference becomes enormous. The curious, smart person also tends to be more adaptable because they are comfortable with uncertainty. They don't feel threatened by not knowing something. In fact, not knowing something excites them because it creates an opportunity to learn, while others fear looking uninformed. The curious person happily admits ignorance if it means gaining knowledge later. Many of history's greatest innovators, inventors, and thinkers shared one common trait: relentless curiosity. They weren't necessarily the smartest people in every room. They were simply the people who kept asking questions long after everyone else stopped. The pattern smart person. Some people see events. Pattern smart people see systems. Their brains naturally connect dots that most people never realize are connected. They notice trends, repeated behaviors, similar outcomes, hidden structures. While others see random events, they see relationships between events. This ability can feel almost magical from the outside. A pattern-smart person might predict a trend before it becomes obvious. They may recognize a problem before it appears. They often notice connections between completely different situations because their brain is constantly searching for similarities beneath the surface. Many investors rely heavily on pattern recognition. So do detectives, scientists, analysts, entrepreneurs, and strategists. Their intelligence allows them to identify signals hidden within noise. While most people focus on individual events, pattern thinkers focus on recurring behavior. One reason this intelligence is so powerful is because life itself operates through patterns. Human behavior repeats. Markets repeat. Social trends repeat. Political cycles repeat. Relationships repeat. History repeats. The pattern smart person develops an ability to identify these cycles long before they become obvious to everyone else. The downside is that pattern thinkers sometimes see patterns that aren't actually there. Human brains naturally search for meaning. Occasionally, that search becomes excessive. But when used correctly, pattern intelligence can create enormous advantages because understanding patterns often means understanding what comes next. The practical smart person. Some people have brilliant ideas. Others know how to turn those ideas into reality. Practical intelligence is the ability to solve real-world problems efficiently. The practical smart person doesn't care much about sounding intelligent. They care about what works. This is often the person everyone calls when something goes wrong. The computer stops working. The project falls apart. The plan fails unexpectedly. Somehow they figure it out. Their intelligence exists in action rather than discussion. They aren't necessarily interested in theoretical perfection. They want functional solutions. Practical intelligence often gets overlooked because it looks ordinary. People admire genius ideas more than practical execution. But reality rewards execution far more often than imagination. A mediocre idea implemented successfully usually beats a brilliant idea that never leaves someone's head. Many practical thinkers become successful because they understand limitations. They recognize what is possible, what isn't, and how to work within constraints. While others get stuck analyzing problems endlessly, practical people start solving them. This type of intelligence also tends to create reliability. Practical thinkers understand that life is full of imperfect situations. They don't wait for ideal conditions. They work with whatever resources exist. That ability makes them incredibly valuable in almost every field because most real-world challenges require solutions, not theories. The observational smart person. Most people look, very few truly observe. The observationally smart person notices details that everyone else misses. Small changes in behavior, tiny shifts in tone, inconsistencies in stories, patterns in movement, subtle emotional reactions. Because they pay attention so carefully, they often possess information other people don't realize exists. They notice when someone is uncomfortable before that person says anything. They recognize tension inside a group before conflict begins. They spot opportunities hidden inside ordinary situations. This intelligence often develops because the person spends more time watching than speaking, while others focus on expressing themselves. Observational thinkers focus on gathering information. Over time, this creates an enormous advantage because information is one of the most valuable resources a person can possess. Many successful writers, psychologists, detectives, negotiators, leaders, and analysts rely heavily on observational intelligence. Their success often comes from noticing things that everyone else ignores. Human behavior constantly leaves clues. Most people simply aren't paying attention. The observationally smart person understands that reality reveals itself through details. And the smallest details often contain the biggest truths. The fast learner. Some people seem capable of learning almost anything. A new language, a software program, a musical instrument, a sport, a business skill. Whatever they touch, they improve unusually quickly. These are the fast learners. What's fascinating is that fast learners aren't always born smarter than everyone else. Often they simply understand how learning works. They identify the most important fundamentals quickly. They focus on high-impact skills first. They make mistakes rapidly and correct them rapidly. Most people learn inefficiently. They waste time on details before understanding the basics. Fast learners do the opposite. They build strong foundations first, which allows everything else to develop faster later. This type of intelligence becomes increasingly valuable in the modern world because change happens constantly. New technologies appear every year. Entire industries evolve. Jobs transform. Skills become outdated. People who can learn quickly gain a huge advantage because they can adapt faster than everyone else. The fast learner understands something important. Knowledge is temporary, but learning ability remains useful forever. The deep thinker. Some people spend their lives reacting to the world. Deep thinkers spend much of their lives trying to understand it. They question assumptions, analyze ideas, examine beliefs, explore possibilities. Their minds naturally move beneath the surface. Deep thinkers often appear quiet because much of their activity happens internally. While others focus on events, they focus on meanings. While others accept explanations, they investigate them. Their curiosity tends to go deeper than simple facts. This type of intelligence has produced many philosophers, scientists, inventors, and visionaries throughout history. Deep thinking allows people to discover truths that remain invisible when attention stays focused only on the surface. However, deep thinkers often face challenges too. The same mind capable of profound insight can also become trapped in endless analysis. Overthinking is frequently the shadow side of deep intelligence. Sometimes they spend so much time exploring possibilities that action becomes difficult. Still, their contribution is incredibly important. Most major breakthroughs begin with somebody asking questions nobody else considered worth asking. The deep thinker expands understanding by refusing to accept simple answers when more complex truths exist underneath. The adaptable smart person. Some forms of intelligence work best when life remains stable. Adaptable intelligence shines when everything changes. This person thrives in uncertainty. New situations don't intimidate them. Unexpected challenges don't destroy them. Instead, they adjust. Life constantly changes. Industries disappear. Technology evolves. Relationships shift. Plans fail. Unexpected opportunities appear. The adaptable smart person handles these transitions better than most because they don't become emotionally attached to one specific way of doing things. They understand that flexibility is often more valuable than certainty. While others resist change, adaptable people look for ways to work with it. They view challenges as puzzles rather than disasters. This intelligence becomes increasingly valuable in modern society because change now happens faster than ever. The ability to adjust quickly often matters more than expertise itself. Someone who adapts rapidly can survive situations that overwhelm more specialized individuals. The adaptable smart person understands a simple reality. The world never stops changing. Learning how to change with it is one of the smartest skills a human can develop. The self-aware smart person. Many people spend years studying the world while never truly understanding themselves. The self-aware smart person does both. They understand their strengths, weaknesses, fears, motivations, biases, and limitations. This type of intelligence is surprisingly rare because self-awareness requires honesty. It means acknowledging flaws, admitting mistakes, recognizing uncomfortable truths. Most people naturally avoid these experiences because they can be emotionally painful. Self-aware people don't necessarily enjoy discovering their weaknesses. They simply recognize that improvement becomes impossible without seeing reality clearly. They understand that self-deception is one of the biggest obstacles to growth. Because of this, self-aware individuals often improve faster than others. They identify problems sooner. They correct mistakes earlier. They recognize destructive habits before those habits become permanent. Perhaps the greatest benefit of self-awareness is perspective. The self-aware person spends less time blaming the world for every difficulty because they understand their own role in creating outcomes. That doesn't mean they blame themselves for everything. It simply means they see reality more clearly. And clear vision is one of the most powerful forms of intelligence that exists. The silent smart person. Modern society has a strange habit of confusing volume with intelligence. The loudest person in the room often gets treated like the smartest person in the room. The person with the strongest opinions, the quickest responses, and the most confidence usually attracts attention first. That's why the silent smart person gets underestimated constantly. This person doesn't feel the need to prove how much they know. They don't jump into every conversation. They don't correct every mistake. They don't dominate discussions simply to appear intelligent. Instead, they observe. They listen. They collect information. While everyone else is busy talking, they're busy learning. This creates an interesting advantage. Most people reveal themselves when they speak. Their beliefs, insecurities, goals, biases, and intentions all become visible over time. The silent smart person absorbs all of this information without revealing much about themselves. They often know far more about other people than other people know about them. Because of this, their intelligence tends to surprise people. For weeks, months, or even years, they may appear average. Then suddenly a complex problem appears, and they offer an insight that nobody else considered. People become shocked because they assumed silence meant ignorance. But silence and ignorance have never been the same thing. In fact, Some of history's smartest individuals were known more for observation than conversation. They understood that knowledge enters through listening far more often than it enters through speaking. The silent smart person recognizes something many people never learn. Intelligence doesn't always need an audience. The wise smart person. There is a difference between intelligence and wisdom. A person can be incredibly intelligent and still make terrible decisions. They can understand mathematics, science, economics, and philosophy while repeatedly destroying their relationships, careers, and happiness. Intelligence gives people information. Wisdom teaches people what to do with that information. The wise smart person has usually been shaped by experience. Success taught them lessons. Failure taught them lessons. Pain taught them lessons. Time taught them lessons. Unlike many intelligent people, wisdom doesn't come from knowing more facts. It comes from seeing more patterns across life itself. Wise people understand human nature deeply because they've watched it repeat countless times. They've seen ambition become greed, confidence become arrogance, love become attachment, fear become control. They understand that people change less than they think. One reason wise people often appear calm is because they've stopped being surprised by certain realities. They understand that mistakes happen. People disappoint each other. Plans fail. Success takes longer than expected. Life remains uncertain. That perspective creates patience. The wise, smart person rarely believes every new trend is revolutionary because they've seen similar trends before. They rarely panic during temporary setbacks because they've survived difficult periods previously. They understand that many problems feel permanent while they're happening, but temporary when viewed years later. Wisdom is intelligence that survived reality, and that's what makes it so valuable. The builder. Some people generate ideas endlessly. Others build things. The builder is one of the most practical forms of intelligence because they possess a rare ability, turning imagination into reality. Ideas are easy. Execution is difficult. Every successful company, product, invention, movement, community, and organization exists because somebody decided to build it instead of simply discussing it. Builders think differently from most people. While others focus on possibilities, builders focus on implementation. They ask questions like, how do we make this work? What needs to happen first? What resources do we need? What's stopping us? How do we solve that problem? Their intelligence becomes visible through creation. They don't measure intelligence by what someone knows. They measure it by what someone can produce. Building requires a surprising combination of abilities: creativity to generate ideas, practical intelligence to solve problems, strategic thinking to plan ahead, adaptability to handle setbacks, emotional intelligence to work with people. That's why many successful founders, engineers, creators, and entrepreneurs fall into this category. The builder understands something many people don't. The world is full of brilliant ideas. What it lacks is people willing to turn those ideas into reality. The teaching smart person. Some people understand things. Some people help other people understand things. These are not the same skill. In fact, teaching may be one of the most underrated forms of intelligence that exists. The teaching smart person has the ability to take complex information and make it simple. They understand ideas so deeply that they can explain them clearly. They recognize where confusion happens. They anticipate questions before they're asked. Most experts struggle with this. They know so much about a topic that they forget what it feels like not to know it. As a result, their explanations become complicated and confusing. The teaching smart person avoids this trap. They simplify without oversimplifying. They educate without making people feel stupid. They communicate without creating confusion. Many of the most influential people in history weren't necessarily the greatest inventors or discoverers. They were the greatest explainers. Their ability to spread knowledge amplified the impact of countless ideas. This intelligence becomes especially valuable because knowledge is useless if it can't be transferred. The smartest idea in the world changes nothing if nobody understands it. The teaching smart person bridges that gap. The problem solver. Every group eventually encounters one. The person everyone turns toward when things stop working. The project fails. The machine breaks. The deadline gets missed. The plan collapses. And somehow this individual remains calm. The problem solver possesses a type of intelligence focused entirely on solutions. While most people become emotionally consumed by problems, Problem solvers become intellectually interested in them. They don't waste energy asking, "Why is this happening to us?" Instead, they ask, "How do we fix it?" This mindset creates enormous value because most environments contain plenty of people who can identify problems. Far fewer people can solve them. Problem solvers often possess a combination of practicality, adaptability, creativity, and emotional control. They understand that panic rarely improves situations. Clear thinking does. One reason they're so valuable is because they don't become attached to a single solution. If one approach fails, they simply try another. They view obstacles as puzzles rather than disasters. And over time, this mentality makes them appear almost unstoppable, not because they avoid problems, but because they've learned how to move through them. The entrepreneurial smart person. Entrepreneurial intelligence is different from business knowledge. Many people understand business. Far fewer understand opportunity. The entrepreneurial smart person sees possibilities where other people see ordinary situations. They notice unmet needs, market gaps, emerging trends, inefficiencies, problems people complain about. While most individuals simply experience reality, entrepreneurs constantly ask, "Can this be improved? Can this be sold? Can this become something bigger?" This type of intelligence often appears long before financial success. The entrepreneur's real strength isn't money. It's vision. They see opportunities before they're obvious. This is why many entrepreneurs appear lucky later in life. People only notice the success after it happens. They don't see years spent noticing possibilities nobody else cared about. Entrepreneurial intelligence also involves risk management. Contrary to popular belief, successful entrepreneurs don't love risk. They simply understand it better than most people. They know that every opportunity contains uncertainty, but they also know that avoiding all risk often means avoiding all opportunity. Their intelligence allows them to navigate that balance. The technically smart person. Every generation creates increasingly complex technology, and every generation contains people who somehow understand it naturally. These are the technically smart individuals. They understand systems, computers, machines, engineering, infrastructure, programming. Technical intelligence often involves seeing logic where others see complexity. A computer programmer can look at thousands of lines of code and understand the system behind them. An engineer can visualize structures before they're built. A technician can diagnose problems hidden inside machines. To outsiders, this can look like magic. But technical intelligence is really about understanding systems deeply enough to predict how they behave. As society becomes more dependent on technology, this form of intelligence becomes increasingly valuable. Modern civilization quietly depends on people who understand things most people never even think about. Without technical thinkers, much of modern life would stop functioning almost immediately. The survivor smart person. Some intelligence develops in schools, some develops in boardrooms, and some develops in survival. The survivor smart person has lived through situations that forced adaptation, poverty, chaos, trauma, instability, uncertainty, difficult environments. These experiences often create extraordinary resourcefulness. Survivors learn how to read situations quickly. They learn how to conserve resources. They learn how to adapt when plans fail. They learn how to continue moving forward even when circumstances become difficult. This type of intelligence rarely receives recognition because it doesn't fit traditional definitions of being smart. But surviving difficult environments requires enormous cognitive skill. Many survivors develop exceptional resilience because they've already faced challenges that would overwhelm other people. Their intelligence isn't always visible, but it becomes obvious when adversity appears. Because while others panic, they've been preparing for uncertainty their entire lives. The hidden genius. Perhaps the most fascinating type of smart person is the one nobody notices. The hidden genius rarely attracts attention. They aren't necessarily famous. They aren't always wealthy. They don't constantly advertise their abilities. Sometimes they're quiet coworkers, students, introverts, unknown creators, ordinary-looking individuals living ordinary-looking lives. Human beings have a tendency to associate intelligence with visible success. We assume smart people must look impressive. History repeatedly proves otherwise. Many brilliant individuals spent years being ignored before the world recognized their abilities. Some were dismissed entirely because they didn't fit society's expectations. The hidden genius reminds us of something important. Intelligence doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it sits quietly in the background while everyone focuses on louder personalities. And sometimes the smartest person in the room is the person nobody thinks to pay attention to. The rare genius. Then there is the rare genius, the type that appears only occasionally. These individuals seem capable of understanding reality differently from everyone around them. They make connections nobody else sees, solve problems nobody else can solve, create ideas that change entire industries, fields, or generations. But genius is often misunderstood. People imagine genius as effortless brilliance. In reality, many geniuses combine extraordinary ability with extraordinary obsession. They think about problems constantly. They become consumed by ideas. They dedicate years to understanding subjects at levels most people never reach. And because their minds operate differently, they often feel misunderstood. History remembers the breakthroughs. It rarely remembers the isolation that sometimes accompanies them. The rare genius expands the boundaries of human understanding. But they are not the definition of intelligence. They're simply one extreme version of it. The biggest misconception about intelligence is believing it exists on a single scale, as if every human mind can be measured using one number, one test, one ranking. Reality is much more complicated. Some people understand people. Some understand systems. Some understand emotions. Some understand ideas. Some understand survival. Some understand opportunity. Some understand themselves. And each type sees parts of reality that others miss. That's why the smartest people often become less interested in proving they're intelligent. The more they learn, the more they realize how many different forms intelligence can take. The student who excels in school, the entrepreneur who spots opportunities, the survivor who adapts to chaos, the teacher who makes complex ideas simple, the builder who turns imagination into reality, the quiet observer who notices everything. All of them are intelligent, just in different ways. And perhaps the smartest realization of all is understanding that intelligence isn't about being better than everyone else. It's about recognizing what your mind does exceptionally well, developing it fully, and respecting the forms of intelligence that exist in other people too. Because once you stop looking for the smartest person in the room, you start noticing just how many different kinds of smart people have been there all along. Like and subscribe to Think Rare for more such explanation videos.